Welcome to Functional Fridays. I'm Dr. Sherry Jacobs, naturopathic doctor, certified nutrition specialist. I'm Shannon Kennedy, internal medicine doctor. And we were just kind of having a heavier conversation a minute ago. It's not what we usually start our day off with, but we were talking about grief and how heavy we're feeling these days with so much going on in the world and with a virus and a pandemic and heavy hearts.
Heavy hearts, and with all the stress, we're seeing a lot more disease. We're seeing a lot more people who had maybe underlying disorders that just are showing up now because they're under so much stress. I'm seeing more cancers. I'm seeing more heart disease. I'm seeing more neurologic disorders. Certainly through the last 8 months, and so it brings to light, how people are dealing with it. What I thought was so interesting is what you just said just now, that even if you aren't dealing with grief personally in your life, that we're aware that it's out there. We're aware that every day there are a lot of people dying and under conditions that are, sad because they're alone or they're isolated. And so dealing with even that universal grief, people are struggling and saying, I'm depressed, or I just don't feel motivated, or I'm crying frequently. That's actually a human condition, to experience grief. You can experience grief because you've lost somebody that you loved or a pet that you love, but you can also experience grief if you get told you have a new diagnosis and you just lose that healthy version of you that you've known your whole life. You can actually grieve for the loss of your own health or the loss of, if a relationship falls apart, that's actually, it's heartbreak, but it's grief. It's the loss of a version of you or, a version of you as a couple. When our children succeed and go away to college, there's grief. There's loss of that, from being the mother or the caretaker, having the child home. So there's all different versions of grief, and most of the time we don't prepare for grief, and that's what I'm feeling right now. I feel like I'm watching people during this pandemic. Some people planning a wedding, and they're going way out of their way to plan this beautiful wedding under these crazy circumstances, and because it's so important, and so much time gets put into planning a wedding or planning a graduation or planning to go off to college, and very little time gets put into planning for something that's inevitable for all of us. We'll all experience grief in our lives. We're all going to die at some point, but we're all going to experience loss. And I feel like it's a really important thing to talk to your family about, talk to your doctor about, talk to your friend about, whoever you have, to say, I'm going to experience this. What should I expect? And what can I do to prepare for it? Because I think there's actually a peaceful way to experience it, and there's a beauty in it as well. But it takes preparation, and there's no time like the present. So
I feel like I don't speak for myself, but I think a lot of people, I'm grieving innocence that's lost. I think with this, this pandemic that's here, and we didn't do anything to deserve it or bring it on ourselves, and so there's a loss of innocence. Before we were hugging and we were together and we were connecting, and that's just kind of been taken from us, and it's a deep process.
Definitely is.
And it makes you weary of the future. Grieving the innocence of our political system. I mean, it's all heavy. It's all all coming at once, and the irony of needing to lean on people when you don't have that connection the way that humans are supposed to connect. This grieving process. So I think it's all time for us to go enter and go deeper and experience the grief, talk through the grief, plan for more grief that will come, because there are times when we're not going to be grieving and we're going to be happy and the world's going to be great again, but we have to prepare for that time when we're going to grieve again.
Yes.
My mom is a financial planner, and her most popular workshop is related to death and dying, and she has this really fun spin on it, I guess, but just preparing for that in terms of your finances. Like, let's all talk about death. We don't do that in our culture. So can we sit down? Can we talk about it? Can we plan for it? Can we talk about finances? Sometimes with our aging parents, and it's very strange to talk about finances, but if you can do that, that brings you closer in so many other ways as well. Prepare for grief on a financial scale, prepare for it on an emotional scale, connect with others on it, and I think that can all bring us so much closer.
Absolutely. Nowadays too, because our children are aware of COVID, and they're sick. My kids have said, I don't want to die, and I think, well, I don't want you to, but the reality is, whenever we get in our cars, whenever we step outside of our safe little bubble, that it's a possibility, and so children especially, they'll hold that fear inside, and so it's good to, you don't have to have the big, deep, dark talk, but just talking about it and talking about how we deal with it, and and bringing a peacefulness to the conversation, so it's not so scary. And that's important, is to not feel scared to talk about it. So
it's true. Yeah, because kids will, adults will too, but kids particularly will act out in different ways. So when through all this you're seeing your child, strange behaviors and strange comments, and then just doing things that are a little abnormal for them, or being more hyperactive, or just changes in personality, it can be sort of this internal struggle they're dealing with, and they don't know how to express it because it's clearly, it's around them.
Well, they hear it, and we breeze through the living room, and the news is on, and they'll hear there were 1,000 deaths today, and they're like, "What? 1,000 people died today?" And it's the loss of their innocence, because we have to talk to them about what that means. Okay.
So, well, part of the whole process of the mind, body, spirit, holistic, integrative, whatever words you want to use, the mental, emotional, the grief, all of it. That's part of how the rest of you is functioning. So if you're not sleeping and you're tired and you're drained and you're maybe have to address some of the grieving that's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.